kick it off then, if you guys wouldn't mind. Dara,
Dara Richards, yes.
Suanna, and Moises. That's
You said Will's on too.
yeah, Will's on audio, I believe.
Correct. And so is Mr. Valentine.
Okay, perfect. So Jordan, we okay? Okay. Good evening, everybody. I'm gonna call this meeting to order. And let's go ahead and determine that we do in fact have a quorum. We've got 3 board members here in attendance and 1 joining via Zoom audio. And at this time, we're going to determine that we do in fact have a quorum, and I'd ask that we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I ask that you please remain standing for a moment of silent prayer and reflection. Thank you. Please be seated. We're going to go ahead and move into our public comment section. Comments have been submitted, which Ms. Howard is going to read for us, and I'd ask that you please proceed, Ms. Howard.
Okay, from Shannon Caldwell, we have a topic of funding for band uniforms. I would ask that the board consider providing funding for marching band uniforms. The ones we have are reaching the end of their use and will soon not have enough uniforms for all band students. The band proudly supports the football team at all their games and has a very good chance of advancing deep into the band competition, possibly even reaching state, assuming it is held. It is likely too late for this year, but it would be a great start for next year to have new band uniforms. And then our second one is regarding propane from Tammy Riley. Bubba's Got Gas. Her comment is, when was the last time that propane was out for bid for the school district?
Thank you. All right, we're going to move over to item number 2 on our agenda, which is the 2020-2021 budget workshop. And I'll turn this over to Mr. York.
So Moises and I have, Moises created a PowerPoint, and we've reviewed it several times, made some revisions on it. And so I want to turn it over to Moises. This is what you'll see on the screen here. So Moises, if you'll begin with the agenda page, and we can move forward, make comments as needed throughout the presentation. Moises?
And
Can y'all hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Okay, so I don't have any control over the slides.
We'll control that for you.
Okay, awesome. Okay, I guess since we already know that we are not going to get the, I hear background noise, echo. Is that okay? Hello?
We hear you. You're going to be muted, or we're going to be muted while you're talking, okay?
Okay. Okay, since we already know that we're not going to get our preliminary or our certified values on time, and what we have here and what we've been working with is the best estimates that we can use as of this moment, as based also as of the information that we have given from TEA. What this agenda or what this presentation provides is different scenarios, and what we are also assuming based on these scenarios. So our agenda is right here, and we'll follow this per slide. Can you move forward to the next slide? Here's a summary of the assumptions we've been using from the last times that we've been updating you all or the board on the budget or the new budget. We are still assuming a 10.5% increase in the local property value. In the state, we're also assuming a 10.5 since that's exactly what TEA or the state controller did last year. We are assuming a 96% collection rate instead of a 98% collection rate. The MCR or the maximum compressed rate is based on this growth of 10.5%. And my calculated MCR as on the most recent template is at 0.8629. The max MCR that we can generate is 0.9164 and the minimum is 0.8247. Of course, the higher your growth is or the increase in value, the more compression we'll have in our tax rate or the tier 1 M&O rate. The preliminary tier 1 M&O tax rate calculated is 0.94 cents. That's the max that we can tax as of this preliminary budget assumption. Any penny above the 94 cents needs to go to the voters for approval. The INS tax rate will remain unchanged at 27 cents. And we are also assuming a 2,517 projected enrollment. That is a student count. And our estate aid will be based on 2,398.95, which is at a 95.31 attendance rate. Next slide. The proposed budget funds the following. It funds for 169 full-time teacher positions. 12 teacher positions are funded through federal programs and enterprise funds. We have 42 professional positions, including 6 counselors, 68 paraprofessional positions, of which 7 full-time paraprofessionals are funded through federal and enterprise funds. And we have 91 auxiliary positions. We added extra positions in there. We are accounting for 3 additional full-time and 2 part-time teacher positions and 2 full-time paraprofessional positions and an additional 5 full-time auxiliary custodial and maintenance positions. The extra positions are an approximate 416,785 in personnel cost. Next slide.
Okay, see, that's what it's right.
Okay, not unless y'all want to discuss something on this slide.
I just wanted to make a point, Moises, that
Yes.
that the scenarios that the board will see has these extra positions as fill points. These are not filled positions. These are additional positions. Given COVID, are we going to need additional teachers? Are we going to need additional paraprofessionals? And with opening a new campus, auxiliary, custodial, and maintenance.
Correct. Okay, next slide. So we do have some increases from the prior year. First of all, we have an additional 65,000 there for COVID expenses related to the child nutrition program. We do have an increase in the technology budget by 197,000. And this is mainly for the purchase of new teacher and student Chromebooks, monitors, replacing monitors, old projectors, aging network equipment as well. We are going to need to purchase new books for the new library at Blue Hole at an additional increase of 25,000. Our insurance liability also went up due to the additional property, the primary school by 46,000. We do have some increase in district-wide maintenance and upkeep by 103,000. In the due to the Blue Hole Primary School, we are adding additional cost to operate or upkeep the building. We have added 151,000 there. We also need to purchase new sprayers, disinfecting equipment due to COVID, 13,965. And lastly, right there, we have an increase in the recapture payment, mainly due to the increase in the property value, and also in the state or the refine ADA, an increase in the recapture payment of 315,000. And here we have our first scenario. This one assumes a step increase only. And what we have there in the first column, highlighted with draft, that's a working column or working figures for the final budget amendment for the 1920 school year. And then we're estimating 32.9 in revenues for the current year, and total expenditures 32.3 for a surplus, a net surplus of 609,000. That is a combined surplus within the general fund, the nutrition program, and the debt service payment, or the debt service fund. The scenario one proposed budget is the far right column right there. So we are projecting an increase in revenues by 432,000 for total revenue of 33.3 million. We are proposing for scenario number one an increase in the budget expenditure budget by 590,000 to 32.9 million. Therefore, the net surplus on this scenario number one proposed budget is 451,000. Our current fund balance, our net fund balance is 10.3 million, which is the combination of your general fund, your nutrition program, and your debt service fund. With the additional estimated surplus of 451, our estimated fund balance would be 10.8 million. And what we have here is a breakdown of the scenario number one by fund. We have the first column depicting the general fund. On this first column, we are showing a deficit due mainly to the increase in Chapter 49 recapture payment. We are showing a deficit of 259,000. In the nutrition program, we are showing a deficit of 76,000, of which is going to be funded through the Child Nutrition Program fund balance. And then we have the debt service showing a surplus of 786,000 for a net surplus of 451,411. Any questions on that slide? That's scenario number one. And this one assumes a teacher step increase only. Then we have scenario number two.
Just a second.
Mm-hmm.
So remember that scenario one and scenario two have $419,000 worth of additional positions that are not filled. So as you look at this deficit of 259, just in case we did not have to hire those individuals, then the difference of 416 and 259, you would then be in the positive.
Correct. Yes, if those positions were not filled, we would have an estimated surplus there in the general fund.
Moises, hi everybody. This is Lori. I'm on Zoom. What did you say the enrollment estimates were based on 2017 numbers? Is that what I heard?
The enrollment is based as of what the principals have actually registered for this coming school year. These are actual students that have registered.
So it's based on actuals as of right now.
Yes, those are
Okay.
the most recent counts that I have from the principals, from each
Okay,
of the
thank you.
principals. Mhm. But also keep in mind that on top of that, we reduced the attendance rate from 96% to 95%. Okay, so we have scenario number 2, which assumes a step increase, a 3% increase to the midpoint. So the difference between scenario number 1 and scenario number 2 is the increase in personnel costs by 541,786. That's the only difference that you see here on this slide. Scenario number 3 assumes that we won't have, or we'll have 30 students less, and also assumes a step increase. So with 30 students less, our state revenue decreased by 22,609. But now, as a result that the value remained unchanged and only student enrollment decreased, our recapture increased by 184,186. So that puts our general fund in a estimated or projected deficit of 466,201. Our nutrition program remains at 76,180, and our debt service 786, for a total projected surplus in scenario number 3 of 244,616. Okay, any comments or questions on this slide? And what we have here, we have a breakdown of every campus and department's budget, what they currently have under 1920 budget, and what the difference is compared to what they are proposing for the new school year. Those figures in red are decreases in their proposed campus or department budgets, and those other ones in black are increases to their budgets. Total expenditures have increased by 717,501. This chart or graph does not include any personnel cost. Only general supplies, professional services, and any student staff travel.
Did you guys work up any other, like a 2% increase to the midpoint or anything, or is it just the 3 and that's the basically only option?
We went as high as the 3%. That's our max right now. Any 2% is gonna reduce that deficit. But we can certainly work out any different percentages that you all want to see. What we have here is the proposed or the final 2021. Yes?
You mind if we go back one page?
Sure. Okay.
Okay, I see it now. Okay, I'm ready. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Okay, so what we have here is the new premiums or health insurance premiums for the coming year. And we are seeing an average increase across all the 3 different plans by 1.3%.
Did we go over I'm sorry, Moises, did we go over the campus budget changes at all?
No, but we can go into detail if you all like to.
I'm just curious if there's a general, where there are cuts, if someone could tell us what those cuts are for?
Sure. If you can go back one slide. Okay, I'm not sure if we have any of the
Just in a general
directors.
sense, not like super detailed, but just to generally
Okay.
know what they are.
On some of them, I would not know the details, but if we have some directors, campus directors on the online that might be able to answer some questions, what we can do is go from top to bottom. There we have the assistant principal budget increased by 6,823. About 3,000 was related to a software that needed to be purchased for, I believe, the bilingual or dual language program. We have an increase of the Blue Hole primary budget. This one was mainly due to the new books that are required for the library. The business support office decreased by 18,000. Custodial budget increased by 33,000. We are needing additional supplies for the new school and also the sprayers, disinfecting equipment that they're needing. We have a decrease in the nurses, district-wide nurses budget by 1,000. District software licenses, 2,000, an increase 2,890. Resource human HR budget by 500. We have a decrease in the high school budget by 83,000, of which 50,000 was due to Chromebooks that needed to be purchased, but were purchased using bond funds instead of general funds.
Okay.
We have the Danforth Junior High budget, a decrease of 12,692. I'm not exactly sure what that was related to. And Jacob's Well, decrease of 20,000. That is due mainly to the transfer now of an additional grade or grade to the Blue Hole primary school.
Okay.
District-wide library, that increase in 25,000. Maintenance increased their budgets by 164,000. That's related to some maintenance and upkeep that they need to do district-wide. The school board reduced by 850. Special ed, just a minor increase by 1,529. The student support service or the safety budget reduced theirs by almost 20,000. Keep in mind that last year was the very first year that we had this position, so we needed to buy new equipment and things like that. So we had given them a flat 100,000 for their budget. So that's reduced now by 23,000.
And that's mainly just changes because they don't need to buy equipment that they bought last year, but.
Correct. And they are also budgeting for some replacement of some cameras for this coming year. So that's what you see there. Superintendent reduced by 165, largely due to the reducing the legal fees that we paid last year. Technology, an increase of 181,000, a net increase of 181,000, mainly due to the purchase of new Chromebooks for teacher students, replacing of projectors and aging network equipment. And transportation, just a minor increase of 450. And the remainder of the budget experiencing mainly due to the recapture payment there.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Can I ask you, on this, you have on there district-wide library at 25,000, but then you also said 25,000 was for the library at Blue Hole of their 29,000. So there's 50,000 in library stuff total?
The district-wide library and the Blue Hole budgets are separate. The line item that's district-wide library for 25,000, that should be only for the increase of the new books. The Blue Hole budget is showing 29,000. What could that be? I probably have to look at my notes on that. But it's due to the also the new grades that campus is getting, or those also the cost of those new students that will be now at primary instead of the
Unmuted. Okay, so, much of the 29,000 is, for the additional grade level.
Yes.
And, there are certain, library books, instructional materials that are still staying with Jacob's Well for kids who are still a grade level behind or still struggling. And so a lot of those materials we went ahead and kept at Jacob's Well. And so we told Andrea to look at additional instructional material that would be for the second grade. And I'm trying to think, was there not software?
Yeah, it's basically leveled readers and some software.
Leveled readers were the biggest thing. When we broke down the Scudder Library, we found a large shortage of leveled readers. Teachers they had these in their classroom. Well, we need them in the library. So we were buying sets of leveled readers also.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification there. Any other questions that you all have on this slide? Okay, and we had the final slide showing the new rates. And here we are seeing a 262 of our employees that actually participate in the TRS healthcare program, of which they should be, or we would be, experiencing an increase of almost 30,000 district-wide due to the 1.3 increase in the premiums. TRS did added a new plan for the one highlighted in blue, the TRS Active Care Primary, with some adjustments or decreases in their premiums. The district will remain or will keep the 300 contribution. As of this moment, we are estimating the 300 portion. Any questions on this slide? I believe that's the last slide that we have. If y'all have any other questions related to a different slide or other things or other different scenarios that y'all would like to see.
Okay, so when we
line, are we in the black for those?
So when you go to scenario one, Jordan, would you go to, I'm counting slides, it says scenario one, it's like slide 6 maybe. Right there. All right, so scenario one assumes that it's only a step increase. That's where we just raised the midpoint.
Yeah, I understand the characteristic. What's the
so the bottom line on this? Look at the second slide in this is that given the 416,000 new positions that we're putting into the budget, at this point it would be 259,406. We would be in a deficit with scenario one.
259.46.
259,406.
Okay. And the next one?
And then the next one is if you do a 3%, Lori talked about it too, we will look at different percentages. But given the 416,000 of new positions on top of the 3% increase, you're looking at 789,882.
One thing that y'all should also be aware of is that TEA will be adjusting the PIMS enrollment attendance rates for the first and second 6 weeks. So if our attendance rates are less for the first and second 6 weeks, they will be adjusting those to not be any less than what they were the previous year. So we would not reduce or we would not lose much state funding there.
Now, so what we wanted to show here on the third scenario is You know, there's been discussion that what if our, you know, families just want to go homeschool. That's why it was really important that we get this document to them as soon as possible, because we have two options of homeschool. And I think that it was unclear because of using terms synchronous and asynchronous. So we're defining that much better in this handbook that we're fixing to, you guys will be looking at and reviewing and approving hopefully on Monday night. We'll send that out to the parents. So we just wanted to show kind of the scenario, what if 30 students? Now, what this has is a step only. And so it is 466,201 would be our deficit compared to the 200,000 if 30 kids didn't show up.
That's number.
Yeah, that's 66. What we did with this scenario is we just wanted to give you an example because there's been a lot of talk about the what if. And so we just chose 30 kids and.
So that's an overlay on scenario one?
Absolutely. Overlay on scenario one.
Minus 30 kids.
Minus 30
kids. Do the math.
Absolutely.
And
So
also,
it's
Miss Lori?
I was just gonna say, so it's, the 30 kid scenario would be your 259,000 deficit. I mean, your 466 minus 259 is basically whatever, $200,000. So if it was 60 students, then we can assume that'd be more like $670,000. Okay.
It would double that, yes. Also, keep in mind what Mr. York said earlier, that we have almost $500,000 in extra positions that are not filled. So if we do not fill those positions, we would have funds to account there to help with the deficit.
Okay.
Moises, can you explain a little bit more about what you were saying if first and second 6 weeks we have fewer students, the state would?
Yes.
So, can you explain a little bit more of that?
Yes. So what T is doing is trying to help districts that would experience a decrease in their attendance compared to the previous year, so that districts don't lose much funding. So what they're going to do is compare or get your first, second, and I believe it's the third 6 weeks too. But if those percentages are less than what they are currently in the 1920 school year, they're going to match your funding, or they're going to adjust it so that you don't lose any funding. So if my attendance rate for my first 6 weeks in 1920 is 96%, and my first 6 weeks in the new school year is less, say 92, 94, 93%, they're going to fund you based on the previous attendance rate, the previous year, instead of your current. So they'll make a minor adjustment there, so you won't lose any state funding.
What it essentially becomes is, remember the term hold harmless?
Yeah.
So
Yes.
they're holding us harmless for the roll into school.
Correct.
I have heard that it's definitely for the first 6 weeks, and we're hearing the second.
Yes.
They can extend it to the third. I think that what they're wanting to do through PEAMS is to just make an analysis as to where school districts are, and then it might even become a regional, I don't know. I mean, some of this stuff changes with every, you know, with a lot of the commissioner calls. And, but this was good news. This was very good news that they would hold us harmless for most definitely the first and second 6 weeks. And there could be some consideration of the third.
Okay, so you think even suggestion? No. So you think even a 30 student suggestion would not hold true under that scenario?
Well, you just wouldn't get the ADA, you wouldn't get the funding for those 30 kids. So that wouldn't that wouldn't matter. It's your, whatever students you have at that point, let's say it's minus 30, you're
Oh, I
still
got it.
dealing with the percentage on who is actually enrolled.
Okay, I got it.
Other questions? Ms. Lori, you had asked if we had a different scenario. What would you like to see?
Well, I mean, I was just looking at, if what a 2% would look like as opposed to a 3
Okay,
or.
we can definitely have a scenario in our next budget meeting.
And once we get back live, if you'll remember what we did that one year where we literally placed the template on the screen, and then we were able to instantaneously give you any scenario you wanted. I hope that we get back to that before we have to adopt this budget, because that is the quickest way for you to actually see what an increase and everything would look like.
Yeah,
That was a very productive meeting.
yeah. We can use the same Excel spreadsheet.
Yes.
Mhm.
Thanks for this, Moise. This is great.
You're welcome. You're welcome. If y'all have any questions, that's all I have for tonight. I guess as we hear more information from TEA, we'll make any adjustments and keep you all posted. I don't think we'll have a certified value from the appraisal district, but we'll work with the figures that are given to us and hopefully get as near as close to the best scenarios we can present here. So that's all I have. I don't know if y'all have anything else.
So Tracy sent me an email stating the position that the CAD was under. Do you have any additional information? I mean, have they given you any estimated time other than it's not going to be available till the 25th? Or?
It's going to depend on when the offices can open back up.
Okay.
And we don't have that information yet. So
Case CAD is closed.
Case CAD had to close because we had 2 positive cases. Those who can work from home are working from home, but that's very limited, and the appeal process is dead. There are no hearings going on right now whatsoever.
And that was our biggest concern, are the number of appeals that are out there. And that's why this value was pretty critical for us, because there are, what is the percentage? You told me and I forgot. What is the increased percentage of protests?
Oh, I don't know what the percentage was. It was significant. I hadn't even asked Laura since then. And at that point, it was 30-something% increase. We were over 14,000 appeals. So, and that was a month before the end of the deadline. So I can't imagine where we ended up.
The certified preliminary that that the CAD had issued showed a 6% decrease, but we are going to need those figures this coming Saturday. I believe TA will be opening the MCR survey, so we can start playing with those figures. But we'll definitely need those estimates from the CAD.
Any more questions for Moises?
Not for me, no.
Moises, thank you for your time. We appreciate this presentation. I think it's an excellent start, so we'll keep working on it.
I think it is. I appreciate it. Any information that you all can provide, and if you all have any further questions, just go ahead and direct them to Mr. York, and we'll follow up with him.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to move down onto our agenda. Do we we have a closed session posted here.
Yeah, I don't think we don't have any hires. We're gonna do that on Monday, so do you have, if there's a reason to go into executive session, fine.
There was one thing I wanted to maybe
Okay.
talk about, so we'll just briefly convene into closed session. I'll read this. The board may adjourn into closed session pursuant to Texas Government Code, section 551.071. The board may then re-enter into open session for further discussion, necessary action, deliberation regarding security devices or security audits, or deliberations to may include personnel matters, consultation with attorney, deliberation regarding real property. And the time now is 6:31. back to open session from closed section. No action needs to be taken. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so we're going to circle back to a couple of lingering questions on item number 2, which is our budget workshop, and kind of some back to open session, closed section. It's quite the echo. So I think there was a question about this budget looking like a deficit budget. In years past, we've adopted budgets where we'll at first have a deficit. Dwayne, could you explain that a little bit to us?
Okay, so traditionally, we have always taken enrollment because that's pretty much revenue. And we take whatever we ended up with that year. And we might add 5 or 10 kids only. I mean, so that was always very, very conservative, which made our Chapter 41 payment much higher. And so we were always anticipating many more students than what we had budgeted for, therefore bringing down our Chapter 41 or 49, which would then cover the deficit. And then in the campus budgets, every once in a while, you have 6,000 that wasn't, spent, or 10 or whatever. And in other budgets like utilities, things like that. We do budget for all of our personnel to be having the insurance, and sometimes there's that cushion that gets rolled in. In the past, last year was the very first year we got back to adding personnel positions that we were just maybe anticipating, and that really helped. And so I told Moises, I said, this year, we need to add even more. So we added $416,000 worth of personnel into this budget that unless we approve that position to be filled due to enrollment, that would be the only reason. Or if, let's say that there could be all kinds of scenarios given the 3 options that we're coming back to school. So that really is going to drive this budget, is those 3 options: the face-to-face, the synchronous, and the asynchronous. Right now, we've got a plan. We're going to be working with our teachers so that face-to-face and synchronous can be done at the same time. We're buying headsets for the teachers so the kids can hear. And we're also positioning, so just doing things like that so that we're not going to have to fill these positions, but we have to have them in place, because if we have more synchronous, we might need to assign a teacher to do a grade level or say a core subject area of just synchronous.
So the 416, 785K for the extra positions is factored into every one of those scenarios.
Yes.
But we do not have to spend it unless the need is there. But last year, we didn't pass the budget that was in the red. We passed a budget that was in the black, correct?
Yes, sir.
What about the year before that?
We were deficit the year before.
We've been deficit almost every year because of the way that we budget. I think that the first time that Randy and I got back together, this is years past, the first real big deficit budget was like 151,000. But we had conservatively, we took last year's enrollment, just stuck it in the template.
I got all of that. I don't remember 2 years ago that we passed something in red. And we did not last year. We passed something in black. That's all I need, Joe. That's good clarification.
Okay. All right, good. Thank you. So let's talk a little bit about, just because we do have a lot of people listening, could you tell us about what we're doing in regard to the return to school procedure handbook being circulated as a draft, and then what would be kind of the process in terms of maybe approving this at our meeting on Monday?
Yes, so we, of course, we've been discussing this for months and months with our admin team and counseling staff, and we created a task force of 24 people. We just called it the Reopening Task Force, And so we've had several meetings, and we have now, I think it's about a 30-page document that covers almost every single scenario. The ones that the parents, the most questions I've had has had to do with the three options. And so budgetarily, these options will have some kind of impact. And so, of course, we have option one, which is face-to-face learning. That's where students and teachers will attend class in person 5 days a week with additional safety measures in alignment with state and federal guidelines and recommendations. And then we bullet several areas that define or that go a little more in the minutia of what that statement is. And then we have what we're calling the WISD School at Home. This is literally a program where students are literally learning at home the same time each day as their classmates on campus. And so this is, TEA calls this synchronous learning, and it is a two-way, real-time live instruction between teachers and students through computer and other electronic devices. Students enrolled in WISD, enrolled in the WISD home school will be assigned a virtual class schedule and must be available for live synchronous instruction each day. And that's how we call attendance. And then we have several bullets that explain what that looks like. It gives student expectation, teacher expectation, grading guidelines will be consistent with the guidelines and practices used in the face-to-face, which is by board policy. And then we have a couple of points about parents. Will support students as learning coaches, ensure that they have access to a device, which we're going to be providing, and a place to work and engage in virtual learning activities. And then the third option that they have is called asynchronous learning. It is a curricular experience where students engage in learning materials on their own time each day, interacting intermittently with the teacher via the computer or other electronic devices or instructional material packets. We still have students that just have no internet or weak internet and can't stream. And so we're still going to be producing instructional material packets. Really, asynchronous is pretty close to how we were operating whenever the school closure came into place in March. And so we're wanting to get this document to the parents. We hope if the board approves the revisions that we've made, and I encourage the board, if you have revisions even over the weekend, send them to us. And so that we have some kind of a final draft that you're looking at. And then if it is approved on Monday, then on Tuesday, we're prepared to send via email this entire document along with a parent survey. And to answer your question, Lori, what the parent will do is they will say, this is the option that I would prefer, because there will be a name on there. We will tally up what that is, because we really do want to honor the parent's choice. That is the whole purpose behind this survey, is to not just kind of gauge what we've got, but to really honor parental choice. And then we will be contacting those parents that want all three options and making sure that they understand what face-to-face, synchronous, and asynchronous instruction entails.
Dwayne, can you just also comment that all three options do not affect attendance, that the student will still be counted as attending school, will still get our state aid from that?
Yes, and there are certain attendance criteria for the asynchronous that doesn't apply to face-to-face and synchronous. On synchronous, our plan is that the teacher will actually see the photograph panes of each student who is logged in. And that's the way that roll will be called. And there's also, I think, Jason, isn't there a way that you can track then which students have logged in and?
We're looking to a software called Canvas.
Yes.
Clever, sorry. Canvas. Clever is a portal type system where the students can log in, all their resources are available in one pane. And through that, we can track when they've logged in, what applications are running, what time they're running, how long they've spent on the applications. That's something that we're looking to. It's a free software that we're trying to get implemented here this week. So hopefully to have it, but that's how we're going to try to track them. And also through Google Classroom, they can be tracked through Google Classroom at the time that they're on that, and Go Guardian, but having the Chromebooks. We have multiple ways of tracking, and we'll probably find the best solution for that.
I also want to let the public know at this time, because there's been several questions that have been asked to me for protocols for screening and isolation. This is covered over, oh my gosh, almost a 12 to 15 page document. We think that we're capturing almost every scenario that we feel like we can imagine at this point. Isolation protocols, protocols for personal protective equipment, protocols for campus visitors, protocols for disinfecting and hand sanitizing, protocols for campus cleaning and disinfecting, protocols for common area and meetings, in other words, having large meetings, protocols for positive COVID-19 cases on campus. We have a whole section on campus health and safety protocols. It starts with training with our teachers. We have school arrival and dismissal protocols. We have protocols that will take place for bus transportation, and we break it down to morning boarding, unloading at campus, afternoon campus boarding bus procedures, and unloading at a bus stop. The disinfecting of each bus every single day in between routes. We have bus arrival and dismissal. We have some protocol for our carpoolers as to how we want that to be handled. It'll be a little different than it has been in the past. We have general building arrival protocols where our number one goal is to try to achieve distancing in larger areas within our buildings. We have cafeteria, which covers breakfast and lunch protocols, what that looks like. We have standard classroom procedures that we're going to be following, which the teachers will be trained during the month of August. Not only classroom training, but classroom setup. We have classroom arrival. We have a section here regarding water fountains and why it will be important that parents are asked to secure a usable water bottle for their child to bring on a daily basis, because water fountains will be non-accessible. We have recess and playground guidelines that we're going to follow. We have elementary specialized classrooms in areas such as music, PE, art, and library. We have secondary specialized classroom areas and extracurricular activities that deal with certain protocols for PE, for athletics, for cheer and drill team, and for our fine arts, which includes band. And then we have some protocols for any school events and activities, protocols for how hallways and lockers. We are going to no longer have lockers available. The kids will be required to bring backpacks. And so this document is lengthy, but I think it's very comprehensive. And then we're encouraging parents to, once they read this document, if they have any additional questions or concerns, to please let us know as soon as possible.
So I haven't looked at this document yet. This is Lori, but I will. How are you guys contemplating changes. I mean, if someone thinks they want to start out in the classroom and then 2 to 3 weeks later they decide not to, I mean, is that going to be allowable?
Yes, it is. So what we're encouraging our kids and our parents to do is, let's say the first 6 weeks that they start face-to-face and they feel like, you know what, I feel a little uncomfortable, so I want to go to synchronous. Then the teachers are being asked to prepare lessons that are for face-to-face that can easily be transferable into a Zoom classroom. And so kids are allowed to go from synchronous to face-to-face, from asynchronous to synchronous to face-to-face. And so after that first 6 weeks, then what we're trying to do is this. Starting of the second 6 week, we're hoping that the parent will have a good idea of where their child wants to be, and then they can change after that second 6 week period. In other words, after the first 6 weeks, we would like for whatever choice they make to extend for at least a grading period. Now, if there are extenuating circumstances, they bring that immediately to the administrators, and then we'll deal with those as they come on a case-to-case basis.
Okay, Glenn, thank you for that overview. I just think there was a lot of people that kind of wanted an idea of what we were working on. So we'll definitely have some more discussions on this topic Monday, and we'll look forward to digging into this document. And if there's questions, we'll direct them to you, and they'll be ready to consider this Monday.
I do want to thank our task force team. We had a very good meeting. When was it? Wednesday? And able to break up into groups per campus, because things look different at each campus. And so we just wanted to make sure that anything that was in this document, that we break out and make sure that you know, pre-K through 2 can only be asynchronous or you know, face-to-face. So we've got all that information for them.
Okay, anything else?